Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review the film Blindspotting. So I got to see this film earlier this past week, and this is about a young man who is on probation after being in prison and getting back out and getting back in with his old friend who gets him in a lot of trouble and trying to move on with his life and all the different kinds of racial issues that are involved in living in Oakland, California. And Carlos Lopez Estrada was did a very good job with this film of constructing a very intense and funny and overall just a very ambitious film, and I really appreciated what the director Estrada did with doing that and putting this film together with the story and the style and the music and how the cinematography was. And it has a very interesting turn on how it does some storytelling, and in terms of there's characters that tell stories and how they're shot and how they're presented. It's very interesting, and also it does a nice job of bouncing back and fleshing out the story. And I mentioned before, this is very funny and very intense. There's a lot of funny moments. I got a lot of laughs out of it, but there's also some very intense moments that do really hit close to home and really make you feel for these characters. And Daveed Diggs, who is our main character in this film, gives a very, very powerful performance. And there's one particular scene that's so intense, it's very uncomfortable to watch, actually. And it put me on the edge of my seat wondering what was going to happen next. And Rafael Casal, who plays his best friend, the two of them wrote this script together, is also very good at balancing this over-the-top persona of being very hood and from the streets, and also this intensity when he really has to buck down and realize, like, hey, I actually have to deal with something serious. And he is a bit over the top at moments, but it does feel like it works for the most part. This is a very thematic film and deals with a lot of racial tensions and ideas of stereotypes and where you grow up and how that influences you, and are you able to take the street out of you, basically. And this was really well shot by cinematographer Bobby Baumgartner, and it's very colorful. It uses camera movements at a lot of like very close up point of view shots. There's one particular scene that I mentioned earlier that's really intense. The camera work was really well done with it. Now, I'm not the hugest fan of the female characters that they put in this film, because they don't have a whole lot of depth and they're kind of just there, especially this old girlfriend character that goes along with Daveed Diggs' character. Basically is just there to be like, hey, it's like you could have something better, and keep trying to remind him that, but doesn't really have a whole lot to go on with herself. And this film does take a little bit to get going for me, and it took me a little bit to get invested. And it is very funny and very intense, but some of those shifts between those things are a little harsh, and it's not handled with the most finesse and craftsmanship, which Carlos Lopez Estrada, this is his first film directing, so it's a little understandable, doesn't have the best control over those different kinds of things. And a lot of this story, there's a lot of convenience on like circumstances and coincidences that kind of pushes the story to getting where it's supposed to go, and it's like kind of have to suspend your disbelief at moments. But I think this is a really important film. It's a very intense and funny film. I feel like if you're really into cinema, I think this is something you should go check out. And just in general, if you're somebody who's mindful of issues going on in the world, I think this is the kind of film that you'd appreciate, as it tries to put a spotlight on some of those things. With so many films like Sorry to Bother You and Black Klansman coming out, this definitely fits in there with that kind of thing. And so I recommend it. I think it was a really strong film, and go check it out if you can find it.